I have been waiting for the perfect time to do my birth story, labor story, but there's never gonna be the perfect time. You're okay. Obviously, I didn't vlog my birth and labor because as much as I am a vlogger, I think I'm a regular person first, vlogger second. If you can't tell, it's probably very obvious. So obviously I just had my baby and experienced it and didn't record it. To each their own. I just needed to focus on one thing at a time. So this is how my labor went. Everyone has their own opinions about everything related to motherhood and labor and delivery or whatever. So this is obviously my experience. It's not medical advice. It's just me telling you what happened. So I had a scheduled induction at 39.5 weeks because me and my doctor decided on it and I was ready to get that baby out of me. We went in at 5 a.m. to check in for the induction. I honestly wasn't nervous. I was more so just getting so excited. I couldn't believe that finally it was happening because I had been thinking maybe she'll come early, maybe she'll come early. And then once we were a few days out from the induction, I was like, oh wow, this is really happening whether she comes early or not. It's scheduled. As someone that likes planning, I loved having just a date and time for hey, you're gonna be having a baby, amazing. Basically just kind of get taken right back and then I get all hooked up the way you normally would when you check into the hospital after being triaged. They started me on Pitocin and my water was still intact. I ended up going pretty high on Pitocin because I was just tolerating my contractions really well. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know the time frame, but I know I was chilling for a few hours and the nurse kept asking me do you want the epidural? Do you want the epidural? And I was like, no, because I was fully contracting and everything, but I back labor because all my cramps and stuff happen in my lower back, not in my front. So I think I was just waiting for it to make its way to the front and be in excruciating pain or crazy pain, and I was never feeling that. I was just feeling this pain in my back. I was just kind of oh, I can handle this. So I just kept drawing it out. We were watching Survivor. One of the best things we did was pack that Amazon Fire Stick because we stuck it into the TV and so we could watch Netflix and Hulu and everything. So finally, after being up on a certain level of Pitocin and I was 4 centimeters, I was okay, why don't we just get the epidural just to be safer than sorry, just in case I progress really quickly, let's just get it because it's been taking a long time. Not a super long time, but I just been toughing it out for a while. Get the epidural. Honestly, the epidural wasn't that bad. It was kind of just more so it just felt high stress because you're just worried, am I gonna feel it? Is it gonna poke me the wrong way? Because they're okay, let us know if you feel anything, or you should just feel pressure. So it was almost this high stress of am I about to feel something? Am I about to feel something? And it really is just pressure, back pain, it's fine though. It's really fine. It starts working immediately, which was awesome because it was the first time I'd felt any relief in 9 months in my body. So I was literally on cloud 9. I was ecstatic. I did immediately pee after I got the epidural. And I was I think I just peed. She was no, your legs probably just feel weird because you have the epidural. And I was no, sister, I think I just peed. And she's oh, yep, you did. Then my mom and Matt came back because at our hospital, you're not allowed to have anyone in the room when you get an epidural. They come back and I was you guys, I feel amazing. This is awesome. And they were you're crazy. I kept saying, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? What are we eating for dinner? And they were can you just focus on having the baby? And I was you guys, what are we eating? Because you can't eat when you have your epidural and you're giving birth, whatever. And so I was just having ice chips and Italian ice and all that stuff. So I just kept talking about food. All I wanted was to eat dinner. And so then after the epidural, since this was an induction, they saw I was 4 centimeters and they were okay, epidural's in, let's get this show on the road. So they broke my water and they were it's usually a centimeter per hour. That should be starting to pick up speed. It should be in the next few hours. And we were okay, sweet. We're just chilling, watching Survivor. I'm feeling great. Then one of the monitors kind of got off my stomach, and so they came to check on the monitor. They also were just let's check your cervix really quick. It was 50 minutes later. The woman says, oh my God, you're 9 centimeters. Let's go. So It was not a few hours. It was less than an hour. I went from 4 centimeters to 9 centimeters and it was time. So I like looked at my mom and I said, GTFO. I was like, get out. Bye-bye. We will see you after. And keep in mind at this point, it's like 6 p.m. So we got there at 5 a.m. and this is like 5:45, 6 p.m. I don't know. It's just me, the nurse, the doctor, and Matt. And the lights were like honestly like darker than this. Like it felt more dim. We had the speaker set up. So like we turned on my playlist. I made a playlist before with those like 2 things, like basically having it just be that small group of people with dim lighting and music was iconic. It was seriously amazing. I just like, I look back on it so fondly because I just felt on top of the world the whole time, you know, like Matt's cheering me on. He like, and I could just like feel his energy of just like how proud he was and excited and just like how much he was just like, oh my God, like just watching, because like I would close my eyes when I would push. I just felt this like admiration and like excitement from him. And then also like the doctor was like, you're doing, you know, amazing. Like you're moving your body the right way. She's like, do you do yoga? And I was like, haven't worked out all year, but I know my body. Olive, my baby, she was sunny side up, which means her eyes are looking at the ceiling instead of down at the floor in my stomach. And she was kind of turned a little bit. So she was like maybe on her side when we were pushing. So I kind of put my hips in a different position. Everything was going well. And luckily the midwife at the hospital warned us about what would happen if her shoulder got stuck on the way out, because there's this thing called shoulder dystocia. So basically like her head will pop out and her shoulder, like she won't be able to like get her shoulders out. She said, if that's the case, if that happens, there's like a button that they press and like there will be a bunch of people like running in to help. And so luckily like I knew that was a thing, because now I'll get to the now part, but now everyone's like, oh my God, that sounds like such a traumatic birth. And when they're like reading my file and everything, but looking back and in the moment, like I did not find it traumatic just because of that warning. And it just like knowing that that was a thing. All I remember was hearing someone go, shoulder. And then I just remember like kind of opening my eyes and seeing people swarm in. Matt says like this, like 2 women just like jumped on top of me and like pressed my stomach. Another one was like ripping the baby out of me. So like all these people, like he was just like, oh my God. So I think he was more traumatized than I was, because he actually saw it. My eyes were closed. I had an epidural. All I remember after that, because like my eyes were closed, was then like opening and they like showed me the baby. And I was like, oh my God, that's literally baby, like a perfect baby too, not just a baby. I was like, and I just kept saying, is she okay? Is she okay? Is she okay? They were like, she's okay, because like it wasn't like, like right away. So I was really nervous and they were like, she's okay, she's okay. They like kind of like set her on me for like a second, but like because of her shoulder, they had to make sure that like everything was intact. So they took her over to the bassinet. Matt got to go over there with her. Then I start hearing the cries, you know, the mucus starts coming out, all that stuff. So I'm just sitting there like really relieved, like she's okay. Like they're doing their thing now. She's gonna be back in a second. She was back in a couple minutes. They just had to check her out, everything. I got to do skin to skin. We were just like, so like, you're just like speechless and you just like can't believe it's real. Whoa, what just happened? Like it's crazy. So I was getting stitched up because of the shoulder and just because of the birth. You either get no tear, 1st degree tear, 2nd degree tear, 3rd degree tear, and then there's technically kind of a 4th degree. 3rd degree is pretty effing bad. So I ended up with a 3rd degree tear. I got all stitched up and I still at this point, like I was feeling fine. Like I was okay. They're getting us ready to go to postpartum. And it was 8:15. So I pushed for like 2 hours, which sounds like a long time, but looking back and in the moment, it did not feel long. We let our parents come in and just say goodnight really quick. Like that was like our boundary. We put in like very strict boundaries, as you could tell by my mom getting kicked out. I was just like, I don't want to be around anyone when I had like just had a baby until I say it's okay. But like, you know, if they're already here, they can come in and say hello very quickly and leave before we go up to postpartum, because like we had to go anyway and they couldn't come up there either because it was so late. The 3 of us go up to postpartum. That's kind of where I like to say everything goes downhill, because like this whole day of labor and delivery was incredible. I look back on it so fondly, could do it day in and day out. Like I literally looked at Matt and my mom afterwards and I was like, that was easy. I was like, that was fine. They're like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, like that was like literally totally fine. I was 100% serious. I said I could do it again, like right then and there. What was traumatizing is my postpartum experience. And it's just because obviously the epidural wears off. You don't get pain meds, whereas like if you actually go through a very traumatic thing with stitches, like in any other situation, like you'd probably be prescribed pain medication and you'd probably just not feel guilty resting and recovering, and you wouldn't be taking care of a new baby. So it's just like, I told my friend, I was like, why did God say your body's gonna go through the most traumatic thing it's ever going to experience, and you're going to have to take care of a baby for the first time and keep it alive at the same time? Like, why are we doing these two things at the same time? So I start being in very bad pain, not to the point where like I couldn't handle it, because I knew that I couldn't get pain meds or something like that. So like I definitely kind of like kept myself as calm as possible with the pain, but I was just so uncomfortable. There was no comfortable position, and I was immobile. So what I mean by that is like I could barely get out of bed and get to the bathroom, and like that was so frustrating. I think it's such a mental game with yourself that you play, which is like all things with your mental health, where like when you're in it, and you like, hindsight is always 20/20, and like no matter what we do, like there's always going to be things we don't realize till it's in the rear view, and there's always going to be moments where we're hard on ourselves or don't believe that anything's ever going to end. But like ultimately, every single thing in this experience, even including the newborn phase, is temporary. I think my biggest thing that I've learned throughout this entire process is that everything is temporary, and just be patient, because you are going to get through everything no matter what. Whether it's like she's screaming, crying for an hour and it feels like the end of the world, it's like Matt would look at me and say, she's a baby, she's a newborn, she's crying, like it's okay, like we don't need to freak out, we just need to like figure her out. And I would just think, oh, okay, so we're allowed to like stay calm. We don't have to freak out. Like that's a cool thing. We could just like be patient and figure it out. Of course, after a while, like sometimes you have to like switch off or like take a break, yada, yada. But I'm saying my main takeaway was like patience. But obviously in those moments, like my pain did not feel temporary. I think like the biggest thing that I wasn't prepped for was my postpartum experience, because everyone talks so much about labor and delivery, and no one talks about the physical recovery when you come home. I think some people will like kind of talk to you about postpartum depression and anxiety, but I guess I just didn't realize like none of my friends weren't able to really walk and didn't have third-degree tears. Their postpartum physically was, although not easy, was definitely different than mine. I had to go to a special follow-up doctor, like a urologist, OBGYN, even multiple times before my OBGYN 6-week appointment. I had multiple procedures to like make sure my stitches were healing. And like I just started pelvic floor physical therapy that was also recommended by my OB. So it's just like a little more intense than I was expecting. I finally like broke down after like 2 days, because I just like felt, and this obviously isn't true, but I felt useless, and I felt like I wasn't being a good partner, because I'm sitting here in so much pain with a diaper on, like you don't even want to know. I don't want to be graphic. And Matt is just being absolute super dad. He's cooking, he's cleaning, he's helping taking care of the baby, he's taking care of me. I remember being told one time, like, you'll never be taken care of again. Like no one's going to take care of you again. Like you're now going to be taking care of your kid for the rest of your life. And I just feel like so lucky that that's not my experience, because they say it takes a village, and like our village is just like absolutely amazing. We are so, so, so lucky, and I'm so grateful for that. Like my mom and Matt's mom and Matt like knew how important it was to also make sure I was okay and help me, not just fawning over the baby, which is, I think, so important to prep the people that support you in your life for. Is like, this isn't just about the baby. Like this is so much about the mom, if not more about the mom than the baby, because the baby is easy. They poop, they eat, they sleep, repeat. You are going through like the most traumatic thing ever, and like we need to get you back to 100 so you can start being a mom. So my guilt came from, I'm not doing enough, like I'm not recovering fast enough, I'm in so much pain, like why can't I get up? Like I just remember like bawling, crying, having to have Matt get me in the shower, just because like that was my reaction to feeling so broken, like just my legs shaking and barely being able to stand up to get in the shower. In those moments, you like, it almost makes me want to cry, but like in those moments it makes you think that like this is forever, like I'm never gonna take a normal shower again, where like in reality I'm here and I'm not in diapers and I'm taking normal showers. Like you will get there. Definitely given me a better outlook on the entire experience because I'm someone who really needs evidence to support my mental health of like, hey, anxiety, like we've been through this before and it's worked out. Like here's the evidence to prove it. So calm down. But like this whole experience, I didn't have any evidence because it was my first time going through all of it. So I do feel confident that like the second time, although I won't be perfect and it won't be easy, I think I will handle it better. I also had the baby blues, which is like where you're just very weepy and crying for like no reason, just because it's like the biggest drop in your hormones ever. And so it hit me probably, I started getting the anxiety still in the hospital, and then the baby blues hit me when we got home, so like 2 days after. And they just got kind of worse for like a couple days. Then they were really bad. And then at 2 weeks, everyone says at 2 weeks, you're gonna feel so much better. And day 14, literally stopped crying. It all went away. But I was hysterical. So not only was I dealing with like this guilt that I was like texting my mom, like talking to Matt, and just, you know, everyone's like trying to like get my head straight. But then also like I would just be like bawling, crying, and Matt would say, what's wrong? And I would say, I don't know. Because at first I was just like, what's happening? Like I actually don't know why I'm crying. And there were moments where I'd be crying just because I was so grateful, and I would look at Matt and the baby and I would be like, oh my God, I'm so lucky. And that would be like kind of like, haha, I'm crying and we're laughing. But then there would be other times where like, am I just anxiety? Like I just was crying. It just didn't feel good. But that is just a drop in hormones. It is temporary. It sucks when you're in it, but I got through it. And at 2 weeks, I was totally fine. Like I didn't even have to switch my meds or anything, but keep in mind, I have been under like psychiatric care for a very long time. And you guys know that I switched all my meds when I was pregnant, and I really struggled in the first trimester. I'm someone that's very familiar with mental health and knew that I had to set myself up for support. So this didn't come out of the blue for me. I was very, very well prepared because that was one of my biggest fears. So I didn't have to like change medicine, do anything. I just had to get through the hormone drop. Emotional thinking about myself and like my body in that state, it just makes me remember like Matt taking care of me and my mom taking care of me. And it's just like that love that grew so much between the three of us, like just our little nucleus, just like being in it, like in the trenches, and just how amazing he was and is. I'm just like, I think I fell 10 times more in love, and like I just feel so lucky and grateful. And now I'm just grateful that like I am finally like feeling myself again, which means I'm like mobile, I can really do things, I'm very hands-on. I have been for weeks, but like it took me a long time to recover, which for many of my friends that I was comparing myself to, it did not. And of course, what happens when you compare yourself to people? Nothing good. I was not being kind to myself, but it's hard. It's like, it's really frustrating when like you just want to be able to feel normal. You don't realize how lucky you are to be healthy and physically capable of doing just like the normal things you do, everything, until you can't do them anymore. It's just really frustrating and hard, especially when you want to like step into this new role as a parent. And the thing that got me through the physical part was I kept telling myself, your body is meant to do this. Like, this is literally what your body is meant to do. It knows how to heal. And it's true. Like, it's not like my body was like, oh my God, what happened? Like, I was born as a woman to have babies. My body's not like, what is going on? It knows how to heal itself. It's going to heal itself. So that helped me a lot. You feel like, oh my God, maybe I have an infection. And it's like, the chances of me having an infection were very slim because I just naturally labored, not naturally with the epidural. I mean, just like vaginally. Your body is meant to heal that way. So, and I would say after like 4 weeks, I was starting to get mobile again. So a month, I'm 2 months out right now, 9 weeks actually, I think. I feel 100%. The only thing I don't feel 100% is with my body confidence. The journey is like just beginning from like the 6-7 week mark, and I'm trying to be very gentle with myself. Everyone always says like, do you want to do it again? Like, do you still want 4 kids? I think that's like the common question after your first, because I even ask my friends that. The answer is still yes. I'd be grateful with as many as we can have. If we have 3, if we have 4, if we have 2, whatever. The only thing that scares me is doing the newborn phase with a toddler. We don't have to worry about that for a while. Everyone's experience is so different. I had 3 of my best friends, we all delivered within 2 months of each other. Everyone has a little bit of a different story, but biggest thing we learned is that like no one tells you just like the little details. Like I threw up after she came out, and I'm not someone who ever throws up. Like my friends all had the birth shakes, which is where you like shake uncontrollably when you get the epidural, just like your teeth chattering. I didn't get that. My body itched, like I had to get medicine. There's just like all these little things that like no one really tells you, like especially postpartum. Like they come and they make you pee, like they force you to pee. It sucks. They also keep pressing on your stomach to make sure you're not like bleeding more than you're supposed to. Like there's just all these things that like aren't glamorous, and if you're not a mom or a first time mom and really close with someone, like you're not really sharing that and no one's really asking you about that. You also just like don't want to scare people because it's ultimately not scary. Like your body blacks it out. Like I already like barely remember. Like I don't really remember what it felt like, honestly. Like I really don't. Like your body genuinely blacks it out so that you can do it again, because like I said, this is what our bodies are made to do. I think that's the whole story, and I prefer having a baby to being pregnant 1,000 times over. So now we can reference this video if you don't know anything about my labor and delivery. The main takeaways are 3rd-degree tear, shoulder got stuck, 2 weeks of postpartum was horrible, but ultimately it was absolutely amazing. I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. I know everyone says that, but like genuinely, I am. And there's just so many like emotions that come flooding back with it, but like I look back on it and I just like get like so happy and emotional. And now my baby's not really looking like a newborn anymore. She's looking like a baby, and she's getting a personality, and she's chatting with me and talking, like looking at me, and it's just like this is whole like cheesy love part where like the love just grows every single day, and it's actually crazy. So I'm gonna go be a mom now because she's upstairs with her dad. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being patient with me as I come back to making videos and everything and coming along on this journey with me. Love you all.